Hey everyone, it is Danielle Marie from the One Realty, and I am here today to talk about Austin's rental market. So I was posed the question of, hey, Austin's rental market is absolutely crashing. And it was essentially someone asking me for more information on that. So I was starting to write this whole, I say not thesis, but a lot of information about the Austin real estate rental market. So not necessarily housing, but the rental market. And I thought to myself, why am I just going to share this with one person? Why don't I share this with a ton? So with that being said, I'm going to share my thoughts. So this is my thoughts on is the Austin rental market crashing? And if you know me, I am very big on data. I want to give you data so that you understand what is going on and kind of where we are, why we got to where we are, and kind of what I'm seeing ahead. So I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to share my screen. And with the screen right here, so I'm going to be looking at, this is the single family homes in Austin, Texas. And this is the number of sales. And so you're probably going, why am I even talking about the number of sales in Austin, Texas? And that's because I think that's where it all starts. I think that's one of the most important things that we need to hone in on, because I think that tells a lot about the rental market. So first and foremost, you can kind of see, this is from 2014, so it did about 10 years back, so that you can kind of see, we can go further than that. But I think further than that, you start changing as far as like your demographics, as far as the number of people moving to Austin, why they're moving to Austin. I think 10 years is a good snapshot with that, because our population has drastically increased. So since 2014, we've definitely increased our population. So here you're going to see, and this is the number of houses that we sold per year. So obviously there's kind of a steady track of going up. So I used to tell people we sell between 12,000 homes, which you're going to see all the way up until 2019. That's true. Then we actually pop off right here in 2020 at 12,551 houses. Now, here's where it goes back into it. And I think this is also going to play into the actual real estate market for sales as well. And this is what we're going to see coming up, is all of a sudden out of nowhere, this is where in 2022, really, it kind of started in August is where we saw the effects of the sale, but really we started to see a slowdown in June, July. So up until June, July, everything that was happening in 2022, we were on track to make the numbers from like prior years, even maybe a little bit better. And then we dipped down and the housing market just stopped flat out in Austin. And so what you're going to see, and why this is important, it ties into our number of listings for rentals, because it all kind of goes in the same. So we're seeing here, especially in 2020, 2021, there's a lot of investors coming out. There are a lot of people buying out here in Austin. All of a sudden, interest rates right here in 2022, they drastically go up. And if you know anything about Austin, we were one of the hardest hits when it came to the valuation of prices. And that's partly because if people weren't selling their house in the first week during these months, they were drastically dropping their price because they were overpriced, and then they were selling. But when we got to 2022, no matter how much people dropped their prices, at first they weren't moving. Houses weren't moving. So what you're going to see here and on this graph, and this is where it should show you how dramatic Austin's real estate market is. So as far as, I talk a lot about buyers being kind of stored buyers, waiting, like buyers that have not bought in a while, and why I think there's like a stored demand. And right here, you're seeing this. You're seeing from even 2014, we're selling 11,000 houses. Now look where we are in 2022, 2023. And then in 2024, yes, we're at 7,218 houses that have been sold. We still have through the end of December. I don't think that we're going to be above 8,000. Looking even at this month at where we're in right now in November, I think we'll come out with about 600 maybe. But those houses are already accounted for what we've sold to date. So you're talking, we might get another 600 houses, but I don't think we're going to get above 8,000. So that alone is like a 3,000 amount of houses that have dropped. Now, why does that tie into it? Well, these houses aren't being sold. You've got a couple things. You've got people that can't sell their house, so they're just going to stay maybe in their house. You have people that can't sell their house that are maybe going through a divorce, so now they have to lease their house. They have to move for work. Now they have to lease their house. There's a lot of reasons, or if someone passes away, they can't sell the house. Now they have to lease their house. There's a lot of people that normally probably would have sold their house, but they couldn't because all of these buyers just dropped out of Austin. They just went away. Now they have to lease their house. So we're going to look right here. This is the number of new listings in Austin, Texas. And so I did all the way back to 2014 as well. And I did this by the number of active listings here. So if you remember from that previous graph, all of a sudden in 2022, it kind of like it dropped off. And so this does show kind of by month, and that's where you're going to, so you're going to kind of see there's a little bit more detail in here. But what we're seeing right here, as far as the active number of listings, and this is for leases, it all of a sudden goes from around like a 500 to 1,000, and then all of a sudden we're up almost 1,000, over 1,000, depending on where you fell in the spectrum. And that can kind of go back to here. You're seeing these huge drops. Well, you're also going to see the number of lease listings right here. It drastically increased. Is it not because people saying, oh, it drastically increased because we have all these investors? We didn't all of a sudden double the amount of investors here in Austin. These are people, yes, there are some of them, but these are also people that cannot sell their houses. So then we kind of scroll down here. And this is where I kind of want to show you, here is the number of new leases. So these were total leases. And these are number of new, and that was unfortunately the way it did it. It wouldn't allow me to do a year summary on this program. It had to do it by month. So that's kind of why it's a little wonky here. But this is the number of new listings, and this is by year. This is the total number of new listings. So when I say new listings, it means it came on the market and it was a new listing that came on. It's not like a rollover from a previous month, a rollover from another year. So this is every single month, how many new listings hit the market. And so this goes back to exactly what we're talking about. So if you see here in 2021, we have like 7,387. We see a dip down here in the number of new listings that are hitting. That's also because people are selling at that point as well. So in 2021, houses were on fire. You could sell them. People were making tons of money. So all of a sudden right here, now maybe instead of people leasing their houses, they're selling their house because they're taking their money out. They're like, hey, let me get rid of this house. But then all of a sudden we hit to 2022. And now we're at 9,000. If you look above, we haven't seen a 9,000 the past 10. Then we're at 10,000. Then we're at 10,060. So me giving you this data right now, you're like, oh my gosh, Austin's leasing market is crashing. Well, no, not necessarily. What I'm just telling you is there's a lot more leases that are out that are to be leased. Because one of the other things that happened in 2020 and 2021 is there was a lot of developers that came out. They bought land and apartments. Apartments became huge. We saw a lot of apartments come into the mix here in Austin, which would also affect our occupancy and like what is coming in, what are people leasing here in Austin. So that's where kind of that rolls into, hey, look, these numbers real here high are a lot of new lease numbers that are coming in. On top of that, then we're going to come look and we're going to see, okay, we had all these new leases that came out. How did we fare in regards to the number of closed sold listings? We saw we had a ton of new leases come. Did we close them? Did we sell them? And so here's, you're going to see again, here's our close. So this kind of mirrors, yes, we're having people move here to Austin. We're seeing a number of leases go up. We're seeing there's new homes, there's investors that are coming in all the way to 2020. Then all of a sudden you see this dip in closed leases. Well, that can also be, there's a couple things. During this month, again, you have people selling your houses versus listing them to lease. So you have fewer that you can lease from, as well as you have people that have been in a house or been in an apartment or been renting, and all of a sudden they want to now buy because they see the Austin frenzy. So there's multiple things that attribute to, hey, we have a drop in closed leases. It has to be the number of inventory that's there, as well as people going and deciding to buy instead, because that's where our interest rates were in like the 2-3% that we're seeing. And then all of a sudden there's some action there. But now we kind of see in 2022, all of a sudden we see our closed lease, it pops back up. Remember, we've got more inventory. That makes sense. More inventory, people can't afford. They're no longer buying because interest rates are going up. So then we take into 2023. And so if you look at this change, so from 2020, we're at, 7,000 is 7,300. In 2022, we mirror it. Then all of a sudden we jump up to almost an additional 1,000, just shy of an additional 1,000. So when I was talking about above, when we were looking at above is like the number of new leases that hit the mark. So if you look here in 2020, you're at 8, you're at 7.3. Well, the difference between that, when we hit 9 is when we're 2022. We went from 9 and we went to 2023 and we went up 1,500. So yes, it went up more, but we also closed out. So I'm going to go back to here. Yes, it went up more, but we also closed out more. So here was our closed leases. So we saw we went up 1,500. Here you're going to see that we were at like that 7 8.3, and then we went to 8.2, and then we've kind of dropped down again right here in 24. The other thing that's also happening is people during this time, people typically, they're signing like a 1 year, 2 year lease. You also may have people that are leasing longer. So you might not see that inventory come back, but people choosing to continue and stay in their lease. At the same time, what's also going on here in 23 and 24, and if you start going down to the apartment side, is we had a huge increase in the number of apartments. So maybe people weren't looking at single family, they were staying to the apartment side as well. So the good news is that yes, we had a surge in inventory, but as well as a surge in inventory, we still had a drastic increase in the number of people that actually went to lease houses. So you have to take it everything, you have to take it all into context. Now, as we go down, one of the big ways to see how we're closing is the days to close / sale lease. So when we look at days on market is what we look at a lot with residential sales. And we want to see like, how is the residential sale? How many months? Like right now we're sitting at an average over 3 months, over 90 days. And our median is like 2.5 months for what we're selling. So when we look at leases, that's also going to tell you, hey, is that demand there? Are we seeing a drastic amount of time to lease the house out? And so once again, this is cumulative over the entire year. I could break it down by month to month, but it gets really tedious, but it kind of gives you the trends of like overall what is happening in the year for this. So you're seeing the days on market. So it went up. All of a sudden we hit 2018 and really we see some announcements of big companies. So this is even before the lockdowns, but we had some big companies announce that they were coming to Austin. Whether it was like Army's Futures Command, we had the Apple, the new campus for Apple. We've had quite a few announcements during this time, and all of a sudden you're seeing the days to lease kind of go down. But that's also because our migration to Austin went up during this time. So this kind of reflects that our migration to Austin went up. You're seeing more people come here, they're leasing. Right here, we get to 2021, people are leasing it quickly, and this is the median days to the lease. And all of a sudden you're going to see it spike back up. Well, that also goes to, hey, there's more inventory, people here. But if you look at our spike, even at our spike right here, yes, it's a few days higher so far in 2024, and we're already in November. So December is going to be a little bit higher. We know that happens every year. But if you look at where we were even in 2017, this is the mass migration to Austin that we're seeing, especially with the new tech companies. It is still higher, but it's not completely unreasonable. Now, there are ones that sit longer that are significantly overpriced. So this right here is your median. This right here is your average. And so you're going to see our average, even if we took here at 30 days, you're 10 days longer, but we're not seeing averages of 102 and 150. People are still being able to lease their houses. The other thing that you're also seeing and that we didn't talk about, and I didn't put it up here, when we talk about our increased number of new leases, is you also have people that were listing their house, and because of interest rates and they didn't know what they do, they were listing it for lease and they were listing it for sell as well. So just because you have these huge lease numbers does not mean that all of a sudden we had tons of leases that were sitting around, because I know many people that double listed it for lease and for sell, and whatever happened first is the way they were going because they had to pay their mortgage. As we scroll down here, and we're going to go into, okay, so this is the last part. So we did see, number one, we saw an increase in leases. Leases came out. We saw a drastic number of new leases, but you also looked at, we saw a drastic decrease in the number of sales here in Austin. So that kind of marries hand in hand. We did see that while we have a higher inventory, we also had a higher number of houses that were being leased out. So it goes in both hands. And then the days to leases, yes, we went up, and it's a substantial, like if you were to do it in percentage wise, it was still it's a good percent, but it's nothing too crazy. Things are still getting leased out. It's just taking longer. Now, this is my big thing is Austin's leasing market. It is crashing. Everything's going on. So if it's crashing, we should see a crash in the prices. That's where we should see a crash as well. So we're going to go right here. The lease price per square foot right here. So there's two of them. So you're going to see the lease price. The first one in green is where it is being leased at. So you're going to see, and here's that drastic from 2020 all the way to 2022. All of a sudden you see this is price per square foot. I did price per square foot because if I did average price, you're going to have some really big ones. You're going to have some really small ones. So I just kind of want to see, for you to see like price per square foot, where did we fall? Because I can't compare if there's a 600 and it changes. There's a lot of different data that go into that, but I just kind of want to give you let's hone in a little bit. So price per square foot, you're going to see the median price right here go up. And then all of a sudden kind of we plateau between 2022 and 2024. We don't see a huge drop off. Like there's not a huge drop off that's happening right here. And then you're going to see this lease price. These are the close. This is what actually closed. So what's really interesting is here's our median of what was listed at. Here's our actual median of close. So people were leasing out higher than the median price. And that's probably going to like the tech salaries and salaries that are here. They are able to afford more. So even though there was lower properties available, they were going for the maybe higher end prices or houses that were above the median. So I stayed median versus average because averages can be skewed, especially when you're in a market that has $20 million house and then you have a $120,000 house. Like it skews it. So I said, hey, let's stay at the median so you can see where the middle is. So back pre-lockdowns, pre-COVID timeframe, you are going to see that we're actually leasing out for more than what the median is. And then in these past few years, we're actually leasing out underneath. And so I think the reason there's multiple reasons. Once again, this is not the only reason that we're leasing out for underneath, has to also do with the fact that we have higher end houses that are also being listed for lease because they can't sell it because they can't get their money out of it right now. They have the higher interest rates. And so it's either like death, divorce, there's babies moving out, there's a new job, there's a reason for them moving. And that's what you're going to see kind of right here. So where people, as far as when you talk about the lease market, so people are leasing underneath, which is happening. But you're not seeing, the big thing is this is your, what is being leased out, like what is being listed. This didn't drop off. There's not a major drop off here. And then if we go down here, and this is, I think, is very important when we're looking at the leasing market. So once again, we are only looking at Austin. This is everything I've been saying has been for Austin single family homes. This is not condos. This is not townhouses. This is none of that. You have to really drill in when you're looking at the numbers. Otherwise, it can be completely skewed. So I kind of want to give you that. So here is the number of leases here. And this is October's activity, just so that you can kind of see, hey, here's what's going on. We did see a drop in the number of leases from the previous year. So that's 597. 5.1% less from the previous year. Now, as we looked above, you can see we're still on track as far as how we're leasing. The median price point, so you're seeing that drop 2% from the previous year. So if you start talking about like 2% off of the 2450, I mean, it's not as severe, but it's also, you have to look at what type of house is being. Is it higher end homes? Is it lower end homes? Because those can kind of skew it different ways. Are we turning down? Yes, but that's also a time of year that we're going. And if you look at our sales, it has been the worst year in sales. So if we go all the way back up to my very first slide, this is the number of sales that we have here in Austin, Texas. And so if you look right now, this is where our current sales are for this year. We might get another 600 homes sold this year, maybe not, but our sales here in Austin and the number of buyers, even historically, is so significantly under where it's been in the past. We're going to see some of that in the rental market. So when people get scared about the rental market, the other thing you have to keep in mind is it's not just the rental market, it's what's going on in the sales market. Because once the sales market picks up, that's going to affect the rental market as well. Because once you have people picking up on that side, you're maybe not going to have as many leases. It's supply and demand. Because right now our supply is saturated right now that we're seeing here in Austin. So going all the way back down here, thank you for, holding on with me. So we are seeing the median list price go down. Our volume has dropped down, which you're also going to see from there. Now, this is the interesting part. So here's our median list price. Our price per square foot, it stayed the same. Guys, our price per square foot stayed the same. So you might have some that maybe you had some bigger houses come on the market, or some smaller houses come on the market that drove this down. That's all going to play into it. So it's not just looking at, oh my gosh, we're dropping 2%. The dollar per square foot, we kind of stayed the same. And the median days on the market here, you're seeing we're at 39 days is the median days on the market. Right here, this next shift right here is everything in regards to what the data we're seeing, and this is for like lease prices over the past 3 years that you're seeing kind of where we end up. Oh, and if you want this, you can comment if you want any, I'll send you this. This is not I say pre-document in any way, shape, or form. I was literally trying to put all of this information into one document for me to be able to present on here. I'm not going to add anything to it. If you just want the raw data, let me know. I'll shoot this to you. But in order to do it, you've got to not subscribe. You've got to save this and then shoot me a DM so that I can send it to you. So give me a little support if you like this. I'll give you the data as well. Shoot me your email address in a DM, but also make sure to save this video so people can see it. Okay, with that being said, you're going to see the 2600, all of the different prices. So this is in 2023, is that real pretty orange line. You can see it's actually a green line and a black line, but you can tell because the black line stops here, the green line is over here. The green line is from 2022. So as expected, what we're just doing, it looks like we're just coming in earlier each year and we're going lower. And so that's where you're going to see the drop. Last year we're at 2,500. Now we're at 2,450. So you're seeing like a $50, but you're not seeing a crash. When I think of crash, I think you're significantly dropping down, not at 2%. And then this is to give you kind of what our inventory looks like. And so our inventory for October, the number of new listings. So this is where it goes back. If we talked about our October, if we talk about the number of leases, we went down by 5.1%. But our inventory, we actually went down by 15.8%. So we had less homes hitting the market. So we weren't as saturated. Yes, we leased less, but we also dropped down. We dropped down at a higher percentage. The number of new under contracts. So our under contracts, and this speaks back to like the strength. So when people say, hey, it's crashing, this might be one of my biggest key things. So the number of new contracts or demand, we're up 6.2% for next year. So we are having people come back. So this here is up 6.2%. This is for October compared to last year. Now, here's where it goes back. If the market was crashing, our months of supply would not be 2.44 months. If our rental market was crashing, we would have like 6-7 months worth of supply. We have 2.44 months. So sometimes don't believe all the headlines. You want to look at this. So 2.44 months worth of supply. And here's our number of active listings. Here's what's currently pending. And here's kind of our days on market. Once again, this is November and December are historically the worst times to lease a house. That should be bad. But this right here, this is good. This right here, this is great as well. So 2.44 months worth of supply. We have an increase in contracts year over year. And then on this, if you want to dive into it, especially if you want to get all this information and you want to look at it yourself, I've got some additional things for like number of leases. It kind of breaks down what it is per year, everything like that. And this shows you kind of that over asking, which is really interesting because this is over asking percentage and it's by the year. And so right here, you're seeing in 2021, which during the pandemic, the lockdowns, everything, we were seeing people bid on rentals, which is really weird. You're seeing that happen here. You also saw it in 2022. In 2023, it happened for a little bit. This year, 2024, not as much, but I have seen people bid. Even this year, I have seen people bid on houses. And so with that being said, I am going to shift back to this. So I want to summarize this too is number one, is Austin's rental market crashing? No, we have 2.44 months worth of supply. We also are up, year over year. If we look at the number of contracts that we're having, we're up. Is Austin's rental market affected by the real estate market and the sales market? Absolutely. We saw a drastic drop off in the number of sales here in Austin. And there's houses to be listed, but they can't. There's reasons that whether it's the interest rates currently, it's the valuations of home, people aren't able to buy homes. So what are they doing instead? Well, they're renting. And why is our renting inventory higher? It's because people can't sell their houses. So that is I gave a little bit more information versus just sending someone, hey, here's what I think of the Austin rental market. So I just wanted to share with you all of my thoughts on why Austin, Texas rental market, it's not crashing. Don't let that doom out there make you think it's crashing because it's not.